Welcome, Off-Season After Dark fans. We're here for episode 31, and we are covering, I believe, our fourth Conference USA school. So glad today to welcome Darron here, who runs the Sidelines Missouri State Twitter page. And we've had a few Sidelines guys on here before and always had very good info from them. But Darron, wanted to say thanks for, agreeing to be on here today. I always love when our fan bases, predominantly we have an SEC listening crew, when they can get other schools, in states with their flagship school in the SEC. That's always good for us. So thanks for being here. And what got you into the space, doing sidelines, following Missouri State? Are you a alum of the school?
I am. And thanks for having me on, Mike.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm a longtime Missouri State fan and booster. I graduated in '93 at Missouri State, at the time Southwest Missouri State, before the name changed.
Yep.
And so, longtime fan of all the programs. And once we started talking about making the move to Conference USA, I saw Sidelines needed somebody to run. I'm like, I can do this. And it's really kind of grown into something pretty big around here. It's been nice.
What year did you start doing that?
About a year ago.
Okay. Because I was curious if it was, during the Beard tenure, Petrino, or back to the Dave Steckel year.
No, it was during the Beard tenure. Well, toward the end of the Beard tenure, actually, during our first year of Conference USA.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think that's a good starting spot for us. I feel like relative to most teams that move up from FCS to FBS, very successful year for both you guys and Delaware being new members.
Yeah, I was quite pleased with that. I wasn't necessarily surprised. What people I don't think a lot of maybe your listeners know about Missouri State is that Missouri State is a very large university with a very strong potential to it. You hear that thrown around all the time. You hear the term sleeping giant thrown around everybody throws that around. But in Missouri State's case, it really is true. The reason Missouri State was held back for so many years from Mizzou, it's ridiculous. The name change went on, I think, for 14 years before we got it changed.
Okay.
When I was in school in 1989 and 1993, we were trying to get the name changed then to Missouri State. And Mizzou at the time, and still at this time, still claim they are both Mizzou and Missouri State. And they fought us tooth and nail, and they have a lot of big hitters in the in the legislature here. And so it was a hard fought fight. And so now we got that done. And
is it just kind of about branding? They want to be the only Missouri brand.
That's right. They're afraid of Missouri State because we're growing so fast. We've got as many undergraduate students as they have. The only thing they've got over us is graduate programs, because they got the medical school and the law school and the dental school. Per law that they set up back in the 1800s, nobody else is allowed to have a medical school, a dental school, a law school, optometrist. I mean, there's like 14 things you can't have. Yeah. I just came out of a battle in Jefferson City at our capital legislated, where Missouri State finally got the ability to offer PhDs. We couldn't even offer a single PhD until now. Yeah. And we fought them tooth and nail to get that done.
And I understand, being in higher ed, how that's a cyclical fight, because when you're offering that, you're going to create way more researching it, way more money. So if you can't do that, you're perpetually going to be left behind.
That is correct. And so every thing that we have earned. And once we get these shackles off us, and it's just a matter of time, then the school's really going to grow. Our president, who's very aggressive, he's got the goal of 30,000 students by 2030. And we're at 26 and a half right now, 26,500. So very attainable goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good backstory. I didn't know that there was all of those roadblocks, and one of the things, you would touch on, you said you weren't necessarily surprised. One thing for me is, being a native Minnesota guy, I remember several times last offseason, me and one of my buddies were talking like, when people start watching them, they're going to be impressed with Jacob Clark. He's a good player. He had a good arm. And even I was at the game when they came here to Marshall and got a win. So did you come to Huntington for that game?
I did not,
Okay.
But I did watch it on TV, and you guys have great facilities there. It's a beautiful place, and I hope to make a game there at some point for sure.
No, it's definitely it was a fun one, but I mean, with Jacob Clark, coming up from following you guys to FCS, and he was just such a big-bodied guy that had part of it, with the age now, he'd played so much college football, he was just a veteran and had seen everything. So I think having him helped a ton. And you saw that when he got injured, you saw flashes, but the team wasn't the same.
Huge drop off at the time. Yeah, our backup was a freshman, and he was a good backup. He left for Coastal with the whole coaching staff. But I mean, it's a huge drop off from a 6-year senior or 7-year senior to a freshman. At that point. So
I remember seeing one. It was when Jacob Clark was a freshman in college. Deuce Bailey was in 8th grade.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. And so, we've it was better than I expected. I mean, I thought we'd be okay. I thought we'd compete out of the gate because the Missouri Valley Football Conference is such a tough conference.
It is. Yeah.
And I think we were prepared for that. But we were better than I thought. We had a better run than I thought we would have the first year. So hopefully we can build on that with a new coaching staff.
And it hurt, with 2 of your first 3 games, you pretty much knew they were going to, with USC and SMU, you're not going to win those games moving up. So you knew, you were going to be behind the 8 ball then. But then, you went on a heater and won 5 games in a row.
Yeah, we had a chance in that SMU game. We went up 10-0. It was brutally hot that day. It was like 110, and everybody was dying out there. The players were dying, and we just they were just better than us. I mean, SMU at the end just kind of the third and fourth quarter kind of took over. But we play them again this year, and we play Marshall again this year. But it's going to be interesting at SMU because we go there, but we have their offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We'll see what that looks like.
I was going to ask how you guys got SMU for a home game, but home and home. Okay.
It was home and home, yeah.
Yeah, but then I know Marshall definitely goes to you guys in Springfield this year.
Right.
So
yes. Tough schedule again.
Yeah. And, the bowl game, was a battle. Arkansas State was a decent team, but that game was down in Texas, right? Xbox.
It was in Dallas, and we were playing with 2 hands behind our back because our coach couldn't coach. He left already. We had several players that didn't play because they were putting themselves in the portal and they didn't want to get hurt, and they were so once the coaching staff leaves, you're really in trouble if you're going to try to play a bowl game. And we got behind early, and I was very proud of the team that made a great comeback and almost won the game toward the end, but I just didn't. My expectations were very low based on what I knew was who was going to play in that game.
That's tough in those games.
Yeah.
I remember
defensive line and offensive line. That was the problem there. We were missing 2 on each side.
So I remember watching a bit of it. It's like you had Clark and Shamari Lawrence, and that was about it for
that was it.
Dudes. Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, anytime you go to a bowl game in your first year in FBS, that has to be a win, considering there's the extra layer of they don't just let you go to a bowl game your first year anyway. So
it was so much fun. I mean, we had a lot of people that went and got a taste of it, and a lot of people at the FCS level, when you're in that level. I was never one of these people, but a lot of those people are brainwashed. Like, wouldn't you rather win a championship at the FCS level than play in a low bowl? The reality is they don't understand the difference, because if they did, they wouldn't say that, because it's so much different. It's so much better. I'd rather play in a low bowl any day than play in the national championship at FCS.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. And I'm not knocking FCS. The FCS playoffs are great. Making a deep run there is fantastic for all the schools that do it, but it's a different ball game when you're going to those bowl games. And that's a good transition to you talked about you had the interim coaching staff with losing Beard to Coastal Carolina, and then your interim coach that game, I believe, was Nick Petrino, that also followed him after, correct?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
with the Ryan Beard situation, was the writing on the wall earlier, in October, November, that he might leave, or was that a late developing thing?
I am good friends with Ryan, and so I talk to him all the time, and I knew that he was at the point where he had just won, pretty big, and he got us to a bowl game the first year. So you got to capitalize on those things when they happen, because you don't know what next year is going to bring. His quarterback's leaving, there's a lot of question marks there. And so I knew that he was going to look, and he made no secret about that. The administration knew he was going to look to see what was out there, and just like anybody would who was in his position. I was a little surprised he ended up at Coastal, honestly, but the money was good. They offered him a lot of money, and promised him a lot of NIL money over there. So. And I just think he was probably just ready for a change. I think you get to a point, some coaches that get itchy feet after 4 or 5 years and ready to see what they can do elsewhere.
Yeah. One thing that surprised me a little bit was, like you said, going to Coastal. And my thought process there was, if that was your best option, would he wait another year or two, and when Western Kentucky opened, go back home, to the alma mater?
He still may end up at Western eventually. Yeah. He has said time and time again to me and to others, he really wants to go home, and so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he might end up at Western one day coaching there and be very happy and stay there long term.
Yeah,
he loves it. He loves that area,
and it's a great program. They're one of those G5 teams that continually are winning 8 games every year, and that's tougher at the G5 level, because you're typically going to be sacrificial lamb in a couple non-con games.
Yeah, but sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's well run. They have good facilities. So we'll see where that brings. I mean, that could change if Ryan wins big at Coastal. The next step is P4, and he may decide he likes that level pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. But he's a great coach. Think nothing but the best of him and his family. They're wonderful people.
I think it's great attitude to have. And I was kind of in the minority here at Marshall, but when Charles Huff left, it was like, you knew he was going to look. He's a heck of a coach. Granted, I think Southern Miss probably thought they'd get him for longer, but at Memphis now, and it happens.
He's a great coach too. Yeah. And at the G5 level, I mean, you just get used to it. It's a revolving door. I mean, we just don't have the money to pay P4 money and what some of these other schools are willing to do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But now in my writing for Mike Farrell, I typically, whenever a college job opens, I write up, a candidate list for it. And Casey Woods was on my list. Happy to say they're definitely hit and misses, but you guys ended up hiring Casey Woods, who'd been coordinator at SMU, made a playoff run there, had been at in-state at Mizzou before that. So, tell my viewers out here that might not know him, what are you guys getting in Casey Woods?
Yeah, Casey's dynamic. I am impressed with him. I have seen him speak multiple times since he's been here. He does not sleep. He is at every Rotary meeting. He is at any function that'll have him speak at, he's speaking at. And he's bringing his staff with him. And he's recruiting the state. He has said he's going to recruit the state of Missouri harder than any coach has ever recruited the state of Missouri here at Missouri State. And he's going to hit every single high school in the state. And have presence there. And so they're done it. They've already gone to like 75% of the high schools already in the whole state of Missouri in this short period of time. It's crazy, this blitz that he's doing. I can see why they hired him. And they had a pretty good list of candidates, including some really top names from the FCS level that applied. And I was told Montana State's coach applied, and he would have been a really good one.
Yeah, Brent Vegan.
Yeah. But when they interviewed Casey, they were bowled over. He is ready for this job. He is very excited for this job, and he has a good game plan. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm optimistic this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember when I talked about him, it was Casey Woods was one of them, and then you talked about FCS guys, Nick Hill at Southern Illinois, and then Tim
Yep.
Beck, Vanderbilt's coordinator, I remember, was the guy that was mentioned for that one
Yep.
too.
I think there were 17 or 18 applications, and they
That's
narrowed it
impressive.
down pretty quick to about 6. But the president told me, he said, man, when we met Casey Wood, he said, as far as I was concerned, it was over. He won us over really quickly. And we just think he was the man.
That tells me a lot. If you have that many candidates and you leave the room knowing this is our guy, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I think so.
And one of the hires that impressed me a lot is a guy that I've, I can't say I know well, but I've met a few times, Jack Curtis at D coordinator. I mean, super, impressive resume, been, at the top, FBS and FCS for a long time. So about 15 or so years ago, I was a grad assistant at Northwestern State in Louisiana. Jack had been there a few years before as D coordinator, D-back coach, and he'd coached with several of those guys at Henderson State, Arkansas State. So, know Jack, a little bit, and everybody I know says that he's just top notch as a D coordinator.
Yeah, that's what Casey said. Casey says we'll have the best defense in Conference USA this year, just based on Jack. He's like, Jack just knows how to draw these plays up and keep his players motivated. But I met him once. He's something else, man. And really, he came home because he played football at Evangel University, at a small Christian university here in Springfield.
Oh, I was thinking he was a Central Missouri guy. I didn't know that. Okay.
No, so he was here at Springfield. He loves Springfield, and so that's kind of how they got him. He wanted to come back here.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's dynamic. This whole coaching staff they put together has been dynamic, and again,
coordinator was at with Scotty Waldron at UTEP, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yep. And he seems to be really good as well. Time will tell. You know how this works.
How do you say is it Kala or Sala? How do you pronounce his last name?
That's a great question. I think it's Kala, but I'm not 100% positive on that. But it's like anything else.
Better. I mean, they sorry to cut you off there, but they were so far behind the 8 ball when him and that staff went into UTEP. And not that the wins haven't come yet, but I think they will. They improved a lot on that side of the ball when he was there.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And UTEP's, moving up to the Mountain West, so they're gonna they got their work cut out for them, But I'm impressed with the staff. I'm impressed with the recruits they brought in. But it's like anything else. Time will tell. Everybody's excited when things first take off, and then the proof is in the pudding later. But I do feel like we're on the right track here for sure.
Okay. And we talked a little bit about the schedule. So you had mentioned, we talked about, both Marshall and SMU, but reverse locations.
Right.
Your guys' opener down in College Station next year.
Correct. Right? Yeah, that's a big one too.
Yeah. So when we do our group show on Thursday night, 2 of our guys that do Biscuits and SEC is their show. They're A&M graduates, so I know they had mentioned, that could be a fun season opener. So
I'm excited. I'm going to make the trip to that one for sure, just like I did USC.
It is one of the locations you should see a football game at if you've never been there before.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, we're looking at seating options as we speak, so we're gonna get some seats there for sure.
And probably not a terrible drive down from your location either. Like if you would choose to drive and not fly. So
right, yeah, it's not bad. It wouldn't be too bad. I ended up driving to Dallas just because I had other meetings and I couldn't get a flight to work, and so I got in the car with somebody and we drove there. It was 5.5, 6 hours. Yeah, it was easy drive.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, but going into this season, what would you say expectations are, or even going into the spring? What do you guys, that's obviously drastic transitions, both coaching staff wise, roster wise, as a lot of G5 teams deal with now. But it seems like, there's a lot of optimism, very positive thoughts around all the changes that have happened.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on finishing up an $8 million fundraise for new locker rooms and new training facilities, and I think last I heard they're about $1 million short, but that's supposed to be happening in the next 2 weeks to finalize all that. We'll be breaking ground on that here pretty quick. That's phase 1. of 5 phases that they've laid out. And so it's pretty exciting. So everybody here is very fired up right now. Money's coming in. Everybody's expectations for Missouri State football has risen dramatically, but we're being realistic too. I mean, how many games can we win this year? I don't know. I would like to think we can get to 6 at least to try to get back to a bowl. And if we fall short, that's fine too. I mean, it doesn't happen every year, especially in a transitioning couple of years that we're doing here.
We were 5-7 last year in a massive transition, so you fall short sometimes.
Yeah, no, well, we won 6. So we won. I
was saying at Marshall. I was talking about we were.
Oh, Marshall, yeah.
No, I knew you guys did. Yeah.
So it does happen, and especially when you're transitioning, like you said. So, we're just enjoying the heck out of this. So it is what it is. However many games we win, we win. The tailgates are vastly improved. Everybody's having a great time right now in Missouri State.
Great to hear. Yeah. So with the spring ball, are there any big battles? Anything that our viewers should watch? I know a lot of our viewers and guests, both on the group show and here, are already in that spring ball mode. These are the position groups we're watching. This is what we're focused on. Is there one of those for Missouri State? Maybe the quarterback position with Luke, Balin and Locklear are coming in.
Yeah, I think that'll be a tight battle. I think right now, Balin from Duke is probably the guy that is in the driver's seat. But who knows? I mean, I know this coaching staff's gonna let them battle it out and take who's ready to go. We'll probably have the best backup in Conference USA, whoever it is.
Probably.
So that's a good thing. I don't know what Casey has said. They're not really going to do a spring game necessarily. They're going to have a spring party. So like a big tailgate. And then they're going to run a few plays, but mostly it's just going to be there to get people out and meet the players and all that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to say what a spring game will look like.
And I feel like in the last week, I've heard about a dozen schools that said, no, we're not doing the spring game anymore. We're just going to use it as extra practice. And my Gamecocks are doing that too. So South Carolina's not doing a spring game.
Okay.
I know that.
I think that must be the trend.
I think so. And I don't know if it's just looking at more practice or you're worried guys will have a good spring game and then potentially hit the portal, but the portal's different now, in the spring. Right. So I don't know what the thought process is, but
you're going to have some hit the portal. They always do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it works both ways. They'll pick up a couple out of there too, backfill some slots, but yeah, not everybody can start. Everybody comes in with the expectation they're going to start, but not everybody gets that job. So
certainly. And we're still seeing guys now who, P4, G5 guys who hit the portal, didn't get the offers they wanted. So we're seeing some commits every day I mean, we've seen a lot of FCS commits lately, which tells me, hey, that guy went in the portal and didn't get what he thought he would. So that's where he ended up. And that's the unfortunate side of it.
It's dangerous. Well, you go into that portal, you better know what you're getting into, because most players, I'd say the majority of them, do not better their position when it's all said and done.
No. And you feel like most of them that do better their situation, I hate to say they were tampered with, but certainly they knew up front that, okay, I'm probably going to have these offers, so it's not a big jump to go in.
That is correct. But the other thing is, you jump from a G5 to a P4 or an FCS top level to a P4, they're going to promise you everything, but what usually happens 9 times out of 10 is you get there and you're 3 deep. And you never get to play. And then you're like, well, I got all this money. They paid me, $550,000 to sit here.
Yep.
And then you got to decide, well, how's that helping you with, because all of them have NFL aspirations and,
whether it's realistic or unrealistic.
Correct. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So the very big topical FCS, FBS news the last day or two, North Dakota State, moving up from Missouri Valley, a conference that well. And, I had mentioned this on our last episode here. I've been fortunate enough, being from Minnesota and, coached high school there to have coached a few guys that played at NDSU and had a lot of everybody that goes there has success. So it's like, yeah, you're going to win a title in 4 years if you go there, usually. Right. But What are your thoughts on them moving up? Them moving up didn't surprise me. How quick it's happening surprised me.
Yeah, I don't know how quick. To me, it seems like they've been in talks for a long time. And I saw an article this morning from their local media there that said that they had done all kinds of studies for Mountain West over the last 3 years.
Okay.
It's been a very deep on and off conversation for 3 years. But I know when we moved, we had to do a feasibility study. They had to do a feasibility study for the conference there. There's been a lot taking place that behind the scenes that most people just weren't aware of. I'm not surprised they moved up. I mean, they've been wanting to do it.
Yeah.
What surprised me, though, was the price tag for them to move up. When we moved, we paid the $5 million to go in. We didn't have an entry fee. I don't think we had an entry fee to Conference USA. If we did, it wasn't that much. But they're paying.
I feel like CUSA's in the spot now where you kind of have to take everybody that wants to join.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So $12.5 million is what they paid to join the conference on top of the $5 million. So now there's $17.5 million.
I didn't know that. I saw the 12. I didn't know there was an extra 5.
It was $12.5 million according to their local media, and then you had $5 million your entry fee to go from FCS to FBS, which is what we paid to. So now they're at $17.5. They are sitting their roster. They don't have the scholarships yet. They haven't added all the extra scholarships. There's a bunch of extra costs that's going to occur over the next 2 years. On top of their budget, they have the lowest budget by far. By their budget right now is $30 million. The lowest budget in Mountain West is $45 million. So they have to increase their budget $15 million just to get to the bottom of the conference there. So now you're talking $32 million plus $2 million more for scholarships, $34 million, and you're just getting started.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money they've had to come up with, and I know that donors stepped up. There's a lot of oil money there in North Dakota, but that's a big meatball sitting out there.
It is. Yeah. So, you see everybody, on Twitter saying, oh, they'll compete right away and they'll be top 3 right away. I don't know that happens. Because of the scholarship stuff, sure, their top level guys will be good. Your depth you will not be able to maintain injuries and depth as much as the rest of the conference, though, because of that.
You're right.
It's going to affect you at some positions.
You're right. I mean, most teams that do the transition do it like Missouri State did, where they take a year to add the scholarship so that at least when you come in, you have equal number of players. They may not be as good as what the team you're playing is at the G5 level, because that takes time to get really good players in there, especially on your backups. But to go cold and go straight in with no backups, I mean, JMU did it, and they made it work really well. So if anybody could do it, North Dakota State could do it. They're a powerhouse.
Yeah. But I know Delaware and Jacksonville State both did it the way you guys did, and Jacksonville State clearly has done it the right way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. Great program. But
Sam, did Sam Houston do it right away, or did they take the year as well? I forget.
I think they took the year. Okay. I'm pretty sure they took the year, and so I think the only team I know that went straight up did it right away was JMU.
Yeah,
and now North Dakota State.
But
they have a two year period, unless probationary period. They can't make a bowl unless there's an opening like we had this year, so that could happen for them. But their team thinks they're going to make the playoffs in 2028. And I'm like, geez, you don't understand. I don't know if you quite understand what this looks like here to make the playoffs, and maybe they will.
And the other thing that I think a lot of their people don't get was O&D line-wise, you're in a pretty decent recruiting area. You're doing well. Skill position-wise, you're miles off of those teams at this point. That's where you really are going to have to go national. They'll be able to do it, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time. You're also, the way you play on offense, you might not attract those receivers and some quarterbacks just because of the way you play. Yeah.
That's true. And I mean, North Dakota State has built their success in FCS, out of places like Minnesota, and there are no other Division I schools in North Dakota or South Dakota State except for FCS.
And I've said they've done great in Minnesota and Wisconsin. You get those guys that aren't quite Big Ten ready, and then they go to you.
Right, yeah, and they'll still continue to have some of that success for sure. I just don't know. We'll see. I mean, if anybody can have the success at the next level quickly, JMU did it, so there's a model out there, and maybe they can do it, and I think they'll get it figured out. I just think there's going to be more stumbling blocks than what a lot of people think there's going to be before it's all said and done. But we'll see. I could be proven wrong there.
Who do you think will be the next FCS team to make the jump? I feel like South Dakota State's would be the common answer, and they would make sense. They're also well funded, but some people say Sacramento State could be. I don't know.
Well, I think the bar has been set now that the $12.5 million that North Dakota State paid. I don't think anybody's getting into any league of any sort in MAC, Conference USA, Sun Belt, anybody without coming up with at least $10 million to join. I think that's the new bar because they can get it. And so Sacramento State is throwing it out there. They're going to give $10 million to get into the MAC if the MAC will let them in. They might, because it's $1 million a team that they're going to get, and that's a lot of money in the MAC and extra. That's like another media contract.
It is. Yep.
So as it relates to South Dakota State or Montana State, the sports writer from Fargo said it best today. He said, people asked me that question too, and he said, here's my answer. We've been working on this for basically 10 years. We've done feasibility studies. We've talked to different conferences. We've built facilities behind the scenes. We're doing all the stuff that it takes to get there. And he says how fast another school moves up will depend on how much homework they've done and how much pre-work they've done and how much money they have. Because a lot of schools, I'm not sure South Dakota State's going to be able to come up with the $17.5, $20 million, whatever it is, to make that move. It is I don't think Missouri State would have done it had we had faced with $20 million. In fact, I know we wouldn't have.
Okay.
It's just too much money, not counting everything else that you have to do once you become FBS.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your costs don't stop there when you pay. It's not like you pay that fee and it's done. Well, no, you got to sustain that.
That's the entry fee. The other interesting thing about North Dakota State is I want to see what their payout is because they're coming in as football only.
Yep.
So they're going to get a reduced payout. They may not even get a payout. I don't know I haven't seen it reported yet, but the Mountain West may say you're getting no payout for 2 or 3 years on top of the fee that you paid. Okay. I mean, that's what Sacramento State's offering, that they're going to get no payout for the first few years.
Yep. I saw it was first 2 or 3 for them that they said, no, we won't take any of that.
That'll be. I'm really going to be interested to see what that contract with North Dakota State looks like, because that's the bar. I'm telling you right now, that's the new bar for FCS teams to get in. That's going to be where they're going to be to other teams that want to make the move.
Makes sense, yeah. But we've reached the end of our road here, Darron. I want to thank you for being on. Like anybody who wants to follow, they can see the banner at the bottom, the Sidelines Missouri State. It's been great to have you here, and I look forward to hopefully collaborating in the future.
It was awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. Well, you know what? We'll have you on our show at some point too on our Sidelines.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
we'll get you on there for sure.
Awesome.
Okay, Mike. Everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.